The Soviet Parliament meets to officially disband the Soviet Union but lacks a quorum. Gorbachev will announce his resignation tomorrow. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Joanne Stefanik here with the CBC Morning News live from Newsworld, Halifax.
Good morning. I'm Jordy Morgan. Coming up in about 45 minutes, Santa. We have a very special Christmas guest who has taken the time from his busy travel preparations to join us here on the CBC Morning News. But first, today's lead story. Joanne?
Thanks, Jordy. An aide to Mikhail Gorbachev said this morning that the Soviet president will announce his resignation tomorrow at noon Eastern Time. Andrei Grachev says the decision was reached in consultation with Russian President Boris Yeltsin. Gorbachev had already said he'll step down once the new Commonwealth is legally ratified by the Soviet Parliament. The independent news agency Interfax says Gorbachev told British Prime Minister John Major yesterday that he will step down within the next couple of days. And the Soviet Parliament met today to vote itself out of existence. But the vote had to be postponed because not enough deputies showed up to form a quorum. The meeting was to consider a resolution transferring power from the Soviet Union to the new Commonwealth of Independent States. Some officials have insisted that a formal transfer of power was necessary to make the actions of the new Commonwealth legally binding. However, not enough of the Soviet deputies turned up today to make that vote official, so they postponed their decision until they can get a quorum together.
In the United States, an official says President George Bush is ready to recognize Russia as the successor to the Soviet Union. And sources say Washington will recommend that Russia replace the Soviet Union on the Security Council of the United Nations. Analysts are saying the move signals the end of American relations with Mikhail Gorbachev. Washington is also expected to formally recognize the independence of other former Soviet republics. That announcement is expected later in the week. There's more heavy fighting this morning in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. Opposition forces say President Zviad Gamsakhurdia is running a dictatorship, and they're fighting to get rid of him. Gamsakhurdia is inside the parliament building, refusing to come out. Rebel troops are using tanks and heavy artillery as they try to storm the building. But troops loyal to the president are putting up a tough fight. Reports say the building has suffered heavy damage in 3 days of shelling. So far, the fighting has killed at least 26 people and left more than 200 people wounded.
The IRA has announced a 72-hour Christmas truce in its guerrilla war to force the British out of Northern Ireland. The IRA says the ceasefire will end at midnight on Thursday. The British minister responsible for Northern Ireland says he welcomes the truce, and he called on the IRA to give up violence for good. In spite of the goodwill gesture, security authorities say they're keeping soldiers and police on full alert during the holiday period. Here in Canada, another major retailer has fallen victim to the recession. Yesterday, the Grafton Fraser men's clothing chain received protection from its creditors until it comes up with a new business plan. But even after restructuring, hundreds of people across the country could lose their jobs. We get more on the story in this report from Matt McClure.
We believe this is the best way to go. Unfortunately, there will be some stores closed and there will be some people let go.
Grafton's president delivered the bad news. As many as 1,700 employees across the country could be out of a job. After losses of $23 million last year and a further 15% drop in sales this year, Hicks said it was time to act.
I would like to have not made it this close to Christmas, but unfortunately I'm not Santa Claus. So.
The company, which owns chains like Grafton, Jack Fraser, and George Richards King Size, is liquidating its stock at more than 200 stores across Canada. Grafton employees may have to wait a month and a half to find out if they will have a job. That's how long the courts has given Grafton to come up with a restructuring plan. Some workers even managed to maintain a brave face.
A lot of people expected it already. There was other signs that were already heading in, just a matter of waiting for when the call was be. It's either now or January 1 before inventory, so it was coming. Nice Christmas present, though.
For the CBC Alberta News, I'm Matt McClure.
Our top story this morning, the Soviet Parliament meeting basically, I guess you could say today, to vote itself out of existence, but that vote had to be postponed because not enough deputies showed up in order to form a quorum. Joining us now by phone is the CBC's Anna Maria Tremonti. She's in Moscow, and she'll bring us up to date. Good morning, Anna Maria. Exactly what is happening now?
Well, Joanne, I've just come from the Kremlin, and in fact, the deputies have adjourned. They did pass a resolution calling for a larger Congress of People's Deputies to deal with this. There weren't that many of them in the room, but they were pretty desperate to cling to power. They talked about the fact that it was unconstitutional, that there should be more organization, there has to be a smoother transition. Very reluctant to, as you say, put themselves out of a job. They didn't resolve a thing. They debated. A few people said, look, this is inevitable, let's just go with it. And they ended after about 2 hours with absolutely no conclusion.
All right, so they've adjourned. Nothing has been resolved. Is anybody in particular staying away from the parliament, any particular deputies?
Absolutely. The Russian deputies, Ukrainian deputies, and deputies from Belarus as well. There were some Russian deputies there with an observer status today, but they have been staying away since last week, and this is where we get the quorum problems. As well, there were some expectation that Mikhail Gorbachev might speak to this group today, but there were so few people it would have been an embarrassment to him to do that. We are waiting to hear when, in fact, we will get a statement from Mikhail Gorbachev. There are people, some officials saying that we won't get anything today, others saying, well, wait and see. He said that he'll give some kind of an indication within the next couple of days. But again, nothing clear on what he is planning at this point.
Okay, but without Russian and Ukrainian deputies, what are the chances that they're ever going to be able to get a quorum?
Well, they can't get a quorum in the upper house without Russian deputies. They make up about 70%. In the lower house, which met this morning, they make up about a quarter of the deputies. But again, as I say, other people stayed away as well. I think they don't know what to do. They were flailing around today and debating and arguing, but there's no one who's able to take some control and tell them what they should do. And again, they're very reluctant just to say, our dissolution is inevitable. Let's agree to it. They want things done their way, and they continue to say that it's unconstitutional.
All right, Anna Maria, final question. Is there one person perhaps that could turn this around? Would it be the resignation speech of Gorbachev? Would it be Boris Yeltsin coming in? What might turn this around?
Well, it's not clear to me constitutionally if that in fact can be, or if it's the Supreme Soviet has to do. The argument today by the deputies in the Supreme Soviet was that they have to do it constitutionally. But in fact, it is a fait accompli, and what we're looking at here is some formality that a group of people who are very reluctant to give up power want to go through. But as we all know, the Commonwealth has been formed. These republics say they're no longer part of the Soviet Union, and Mikhail Gorbachev has acknowledged that the Commonwealth it has taken the place of the Soviet Union. So it's not clear what these deputies can even do.
Anna Maria Tremonti, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joanne.
Anna Maria Tremonti is the CBC's correspondent in Moscow. She joined us by phone for that update.
Many parents across Canada are worried their children could be struck by meningitis. In the last several weeks, the disease has killed a teenager in Charlottetown, 3 teenagers in Ottawa, and a toddler in Kamloops, British Columbia. There haven't been any deaths reported in Nova Scotia, but as Angela Yazbek reports, parents in Halifax have been warned to watch their children closely for any symptoms of the disease.
For most of these children, Christmas is the concern of the day. But many of their parents have a lot more on their minds. A couple of weeks ago, a little boy from another daycare center in Halifax was taken to hospital with meningococcemia. It's not meningitis, but it's caused by the same bacteria that's caused recent deaths across the country. There have been 16 cases of this type of bacteria in Nova Scotia this year. This daycare director is taking no chances. A few days ago, she sent letters out to all parents warning them about the disease.
If it's something like meningitis, it can come very serious very quickly. So basically what I told parents is be on the safe side and get your child checked by the doctor.
But the health department says the cases in Nova Scotia are isolated and there's no need to panic. Parents, though, should be aware of the symptoms.
You notice that your child is not alert, is disoriented, doesn't respond, is staring off into space, then that's a sign that you have to worry about. That's a sign of someone who's really sick. Also, headache or a stiff neck are other things that should make people think meningitis.
LeBlanc wants parents to know there will always be outbreaks of this type of disease, but the chance of a child contracting it are rare. Angela Yazbek, CBC News, Halifax.
In Shearstown, Newfoundland, a 15-year-old girl is recovering after spending more than 8 hours in the woods in sub-zero temperatures. As Atzo Rizzori reports, rescue workers found the girl just in time.
Tracy Clark is smiling, and so is her family. But Saturday afternoon, it was death that was on everybody's mind.
I thought I was going to die while I was in there. When we couldn't find her, when she was gone right in, I had my doubts. Everybody had the doubts. Even the Mounties had the doubts. That she was coming out of it.
This is where Tracy's troubles started at around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. She took a chance and waded across this brook in sneakers. Then she continued along this woods road. Here at this fork, she made her second mistake. She took the wrong turn. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, her family knew she was lost and the search was on. By around 4 o'clock, searchers had picked up Tracy's tracks. Terry Tuttle and Glenn Saunders followed the tracks down the ridge into the boggy woods.
When we got down like about 3/4 of a mile, that's when we realized like she did call back for help. So we bawled out and told her, to stay where she was too, because we were following her tracks.
More than 8 hours after she got lost, Tracy was carried out of the woods on a stretcher with frostbitten legs and within a brush stroke of freezing to death. She's been told she'll be all right. For CBC News, I'm Atzo Rizzori in Shearstown.
For many Canadians, the rush to get ready for Christmas is finally ending today. The tree is up, the presents are wrapped, and the next few days normally reserved for family and friends. As Jeff Bohatch tells us now, in some places, Christmas is the perfect time for a sleigh ride.
These sleighs are being driven by members of the Saskatchewan Pleasure Driving Club.
We donate our horses and our time to the museum, and we give rides and take donations for the rides, and that goes to projects that we do, like building these sleighs.
Before they can take off, laughing all the way, they have to fix the sleighs. They rebuild cutters that people donate to the museum. Most need new wooden frames and runners, and some need new everything.
Well, this particular unit here, a fellow donated that to the museum. When we first heard about it, he told us that it would be perfect shape. All we had to do is hook the horses to it and we could use it. No, that's what it looks like. It's going to be a while yet before we can hook horses to it.
Once a sleigh is rebuilt, it's as good as new. This used to be the best way to get around in the wintertime, and for some, it still is.
If we didn't enjoy it, I guess we wouldn't be doing it. Yeah, so that's, we do an awful lot of kids. It's makes you feel pretty good when you get some of the little kids get in and they sing a song and they thank you for it, and they really appreciate it.
For CBC News, I'm Jeff Bohatch.
13 minutes past the hour now, 17 minutes to in Newfoundland. Here's Jordy to talk a little bit more about sports. I think my parents met that way.
Well, on a sleigh ride?
On a sleigh ride, uh-huh.
Well, I mean, that's a nice Christmas tradition. In much the same way that NFL football, well, not exactly the same way, but NFL football around Christmas time is somewhat traditional. Chicago lost to San Francisco last night anyway, 52-14, a big blowout. That means that Detroit wins the NFC Central Division with a 12-4 record, and that certainly isn't any tradition. So the matchups for this weekend are set. Kansas City will host LA on Saturday. The Falcons will travel to New Orleans in the other Saturday game. And instead of having the weekend off, Chicago will play the Cowboys on Sunday. The final weekend game will feature the 8-8 Jets in Houston to take on the Oilers. And the San Diego Chargers have fired head coach Dan Henning after 3 losing seasons. San Diego was 4-12 this season, 16 games under 500 in the 48 games that he was at the helm.
As is always, is if you don't win, then they make a change. I think the bottom line is what's come down here, and I have no argument with that. We haven't won.
Well, a few hockey notes to tell you about this morning. The team that won the Canada Cup hockey tournament last fall has been named Sports Team of the Year in Canada. And the New York Rangers have traded Corey Millen to Los Angeles for Randy Gillen. And in baseball, a group of business and civic leaders in Portland, Oregon has proposed that the Seattle Mariners play some of their games in Portland and Vancouver. That'd be Vancouver, Washington. They believe the A 10-20 game Portland schedule could bring an additional 10 to 15 million people per year and help keep the Mariners in the Northwest. That is Sports Notes. We'll have a complete sportscast for you in about 20 minutes or so. Right now, here's your Christmas Eve scoreboard.
Well, when we come back, we'll have Pat Bolland joining us live from Toronto, bringing us up to date on what's going on in the world of business.
A rather wild and woolly day on the markets, apparently. But before that, we have a quick look at the eastern airports and also look at the weather across the country on the CBC Morning News, live from Newsworld Halifax.
Hey, Mike, you here alone? No, my parents are over there. Hey, look, my parents are sitting with your parents. I guess they're making friends. Yeah, I guess they like it here. Oops, my mother spilled her coffee again. It's okay, she's allowed to make a mess here. You deserve a break today. And it's good to get them out once in a while. That's McDonald's today.
A wild and woolly day on the New York Stock Exchange yesterday. It shook investors out of their lethargy. Pat Bolland of Business World will take a look at the worldwide market reaction from Toronto. Good morning, Pat. How are you today?
Good morning, Jordy. I'm great.
Great. Why the strong move on the New York Stock Exchange?
Well, we didn't get much of a reaction on Friday when the interest rate cut happened with the discount rate down in the United States. So you're getting a delayed reaction. The reason we didn't get a reaction on Friday is because we had what is called the triple witching, because we had options and futures and so on. So there were massive amounts of stocks to be moved around. What you're seeing then is that you get the second biggest rally in the year with an 88-point move on the Dow Jones yesterday, and people finally reacting to the lower interest rates. On the Toronto Stock Exchange, having said that, we got kind of dragged along kicking and screaming. Our interest rates did not decline. The bank rate was up a little bit, 0.1%. So we're not getting the declines. Therefore, the TSE was only up 37 points on relatively weak volume of 17 million shares. So I think a lot of Toronto players are on vacation.
Tokyo was closed yesterday for the holiday, but how did it do today?
Well, we had a very strong opening in Tokyo, up 400 points and change, and then they reversed. They moved and closed down 112 points. So they took the Wall Street news well, but then decided that maybe their own market had different fundamentals. In Hong Kong, we had a market that likes Wall Street, up 46 points. In Sydney, Australia, it was up 6 points there, and despite the fact that they've got a weak dollar. In fact, the weak Australian dollar is encouraging investors back into the marketplace.
So how are things on the continent?
Over in Europe, we've got a good day. We've got a good day going. In London, we're up 38 points, and Paris, we're up 53 points. Now, Paris is a little bit of an anomaly because we set 10-month lows yesterday as they raised their interest rates in France. So a little bit of reaction to Wall Street there. German markets are closed for holiday today.
Okay, Pat, thanks very much. We'll talk to you in an hour or so.
My pleasure, Jordan.
Pat Bolland is our business analyst. He joined us from Business World in Toronto. Let's have a look at the markets now. The Canadian dollar is worth 86.36 cents American. A U.S. dollar buying $1.1579 Canadian. On the overseas markets, London's FTSE 100 is up 38.2. Tokyo's Nikkei index closing down 112.59 points. And yesterday, the Dow Jones ended up 88.1. Here in Canada, the TSE 300 closing yesterday up 37.3. Montreal's market portfolio index up 30.44. And the composite index in Vancouver ended the day up 3.71 points. Precious metals with gold trading in London this morning at $359.40 American, down 15 cents from yesterday's close. That's American funds. And in New York, the near-month contract for light sweet crude was up 26 cents to $18.78 American a barrel. We'll have more business for you in just under an hour.
Some people call it compassion fatigue, the state in which people feel they've done all they can for those who are in need. Others call it intolerance. Whatever you call it, it seems to be the new barrier that's rising before homeless people this Christmas. Bob Favre, CBS News reports.
One reason that homelessness in America is such a big problem is because so many people are shouting, "Don't put the homeless in middle-class America's backyard."
Let me tell you, as a middle-class citizen, I am not ashamed to say I am, because I did it the hard way. I goddamn worked for it all my life, and nobody's going to take away my quality of life.
That full-throated roar has erupted from affluent Santa Monica to the wealthy neighborhoods in Washington, D.C.
Dumping on us is thoughtless and unfair.
No community should have to endure the relocation of what we used to call Bowery bums into stable middle-class communities.
If there's disagreement over what to do with the nation's homeless, there is no disagreement that what has been done, shunting them into rundown areas, often warehousing them next to other programs for the down and out, hasn't worked.
This is not an efficient way of dealing with the problem.
Not efficient, says sociologist Camilo Vergara, because it helps neither the homeless nor areas where they're dumped.
At worst, you create an area where the problems are not just concentrated, but also expanded. It's a waste of lives and an expense of money.
But when New York recently proposed not to repeat past mistakes and to locate 24 new shelters in mostly residential areas throughout the city, New Yorkers exploded.
No shelter, no way, no how.
Stormy opposition from otherwise quiet, uncomplaining people like Diane Ravella, who lives just 1 foot from one of the proposed sites.
I'm afraid for my children's lives. I'm afraid for my children's health. I'm afraid that someone is going to hurt my child.
Lorraine Sorge was so upset, she collected nearly 50,000 signatures against bringing the homeless to her neighborhood.
It's like a cancer. They're spreading a cancer into a healthy community. And we're not going to survive.
In our communities, if you were to go around and start digging in garbage bins, people who've never seen anything like that, they'd be frightful.
It's not going to happen.
Willie Washington runs a homeless program in New York, which is clean and which works. The key, he says, keep it small and be tough.
We're all going to the Rockefeller Center, all right, to see the lighting of the Christmas tree. I expect everybody to behave like grown adults. Let's go.
Each client is occupied daily, full day, from the time they wake up until the time they go to bed.
And if he violates the rules, he's out. Run it that way, say city planners, and all the terrible things that homeowners worry about won't happen.
Good programs historically have helped people take control of their lives and change their lives.
Would you want people like that living next to you?
Yes.
We're dreaming. Let's get down to reality.
America's debate over what to do about all this has gotten so stormy because essentially it is a debate about whose rights should prevail. Homeowners entitled to live where they feel safe and comfortable, or the homeless entitled to a decent shelter.
What about the philosophy of breaking down a
1,000 people who live with 2.5 feet between their beds and no privacy at all. The question is, what are we going to do with our homeless people? They're God's children, too.
They are God's children, so are we. Who's going to protect us? Where do our rights come in? They have rights as citizens, so do we.
But who comes first? Middle-class taxpayers or the homeless like David Taylor?
Do you have as much right to say that as a homeowner has? To say, I want to live without these people?
I was born and raised in this country.
You have just as much...
I got just as much right as any homeowner.
Forget the melting pot. You got a boiling pot, and you better turn down that flame.
Ultimately, it is a question about power and priorities. Bob Fall, CBS News, Staten Island.
We have news coming up as the CBC Morning News continues live from Newsworld, Halifax. The Soviet Parliament was meeting today, technically, I guess, to vote itself out of existence, but the deputies had to adjourn that meeting. They weren't able to form a quorum. We'll have a full report on that story when we return.
This is the CBC Morning News, live from Newsworld, Halifax. See you in a couple of minutes.
This is me, Vicki, before I went on a diet and started using an Easy Glider. I lost 125 pounds. Here I am, 2 years later, still using my Easy Glider, and I haven't gained any of the weight back.
Easy Glider's not just for exercise anymore. It can help you lose weight along with many other benefits. The 20-minute Easy Glider workout gets you on your way to total fitness with cardiovascular conditioning, muscle toning, and yes, weight loss.
I've lost 47 pounds. I've been able to keep it off without any special diet other than my Easy Glider. That's great.
Dieting alone just wasn't enough for me.
You can burn up to 300 calories per workout. It's low impact and gives both your upper and lower body a workout. That makes it better than most stationary bikes or treadmills.
I tried jogging, playing racquetball, and even starving myself, but nothing lasted or made me feel as good as my Easy Glider.
Easy Glider helps me maintain my weight, and I find that it improves my flexibility and my endurance.
And don't forget, it folds flat for easy storage. But probably the best feature of all, the price.
Hey, for the money, Easy Glider really is the best.
You get a lot of exercise for your money with an Easy Glider.
Your reward is total fitness, improved endurance, energy, and finally, that chance to lose the weight and keep it off.
I watched what I ate, I drank a lot of water, I used my Easy Glider, and that's how I lost 59 pounds.
Why put it off any longer when you can take it off like I did using the Easy Glider?
From Fitness Quest.
Don't send any money. Just call 1-800-554-5526. That's 1-800-554-5526. We'll bill your credit card 3 monthly payments of only $33 plus shipping and handling. To order your Easy Glider, call now. 1-800-554-5526. Just 3 monthly payments. Call now. 1-800-554-5526.
Good morning. An aide to Mikhail Gorbachev said this morning that the Soviet president will announce his resignation tomorrow at noon Eastern Time. Andrei Grachev says the decision was reached in consultation with Russian President Boris Yeltsin. Gorbachev had already said he'll step down once the new Commonwealth is legally ratified by the Soviet Parliament. The independent news agency Interfax says Gorbachev told British Prime Minister John Major yesterday that he will step down within the next couple of days. The Soviet Parliament met today to vote itself out of existence, but the vote had to be postponed because not enough deputies showed up. The meeting was to consider a resolution transferring power from the Soviet Union to the new Commonwealth of Independent States. However, not enough of the Soviet deputies turned up today to take a vote. The meeting was adjourned, but not before the deputies passed a resolution calling for a larger Congress to be held. The United States is expected to officially recognize Russian independence and open up full diplomatic relations. An official announcement is expected on Thursday. American recognition could clear the way for the Russian Republic to get a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. It would also make Russia a co-sponsor of the Middle East peace talks. Analysts say the move signals the end of American relations with Mikhail Gorbachev. Loyalist and opposition forces are engaged in heavy fighting for a third day in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. Opposition leaders say President Zviad Gamsakhardia is running a dictatorship, and they're fighting to get rid of him. Kamsakhardia is inside the parliament building. He is refusing to come out. Rebel troops are using tanks and heavy artillery as they try to storm that building. But troops loyal to the president are putting up a tough fight. Reports say the building has suffered heavy damage. In 3 days of shelling, so far the fighting has killed at least 26 people, and it's left more than 200 people wounded. Diplomatic sources in Beirut, Lebanon, say the body of another former American hostage is expected to be handed over soon by an Islamic kidnap group. The sources say the remains are those of William Buckley, the former CIA chief in Lebanon. On Sunday, the body of former hostage William Higgins was recovered. Higgins was a Marine officer. He was serving with the United Nations peacekeepers. Higgins was kidnapped in 1988. His remains are to be flown back to the United States today. On this Christmas Eve day in Bethlehem, many Palestinians are on strike. They've shut down their stores and their restaurants to tourists. It is the 5th anniversary of the Intifada, and security is heavy in the birthplace of Christ. Stan Bernard of NBC News reports.
In Bethlehem, just a few decorations this year, the 5th Christmas of the Intifada. The reminders are inescapable of the confrontation between Palestinians, nearly half of them Christians in Bethlehem, and the Israelis.
We're going to head back to the bus now, and so please stay together.
There is a slight resurgence of tourism, which once drove the economy of this town.
Any pictures, please, from the inside of the church?
It's good to be here in Bethlehem. It's been a lifelong dream to come here and see where my Savior was born.
But the mayor of Bethlehem, who is one of the peace negotiators and just returned from the failed session in Washington, says for his people, the continued occupation casts a pall.
People are not in a mood or the spirit to celebrate Christmas, so Christmas will be limited tomorrow.
The Christians of Bethlehem will celebrate Christmas, but it will be a tentative celebration with fervent prayers for peace. Stan Bernard, NBC News, the Holy Land.
27 minutes before the hour, 3 past in Newfoundland.
We're going to start with one of the most intense rivalries in all of hockey. Edmonton Oilers and Calgary Flames. Historically, these two clubs have been duking it out for first in the Smythe division, but last night in Edmonton, the Flames were trying to close in on the third-place Oilers. We pick it up in the second, tied at 1, and Edmonton's Dave Manson puts the slap shot by Mike Vernon. The Oilers lead 2-1. 'Tis the season for giving, and Edmonton's Bill Ranford plays Santa to Joe Nieuwendyk. Nieuwendyk's 6th makes it 2-2. The Flames then take the lead on the power play. Sergei Makarov puts in Al McGuinness's rebound. It's 3-2 Flames, but Edmonton will come back. Dave Manson will tie it, and Vince Damphousse scores 2 as Edmonton goes on to beat Calgary 5-3. On to Toronto, Winnipeg in town. Leafs Mike Foligno breaks his lower right leg in this collision with Luciano Borsato. Foligno is probably gone for the season. And some strong forechecking leads to Toronto's first goal. Daniel Marois is there to put the Leafs in front 1-0. The Jets will tie it on the power play. Some nice passing here. Housley to Stu Barnes to make it 1 apiece. The Maple Leafs come back to lead 2-1 after the first as Mike Krushelnyski feeds Alexander Godinyak. Toronto gets its first win in 8 games, 3-1 over Winnipeg. Now, the largest crowd in Rangers history, including Ernie from Sesame Street, was on hand to see the Devils and the Rangers in a Patrick matchup. New York is up 1-0 in the second, when Brian Leetch sends Mike Gartner in all alone, and Gartner scores his second of the game, and that's his 20th of the season. Still in the second, and the Rangers go up 3-0 on Darren Turcotte's power play goal. New York goalie Mike Richter makes 25 saves to earn his 3rd shutout this season as the Rangers go on to beat the Devils 3-0. The other New York team, the Islanders, were hosting Pittsburgh, and Joey Mullen scores 2 in the first to put the Penguins in front. But then Wendell Young exchanges gifts with Pierre Turgeon and loses 2-1 Penguins. But the Pens go 5 for 9 on the power play, and Joey Mullen has 4 goals as the Penguins beat the Islanders 6-3. Our final stop is in Hartford, where the visiting Sabres go up 1-0 on this blast from Kevin Haller. Hartford comes back. John Cullen has a goal and 2 assists as the Whalers down the Sabres 4-3. NFL now, 49ers home to the Bears. Chicago needed a win to capture the NFC Central Division and a bye from this weekend's playoffs. San Fran takes a 14-0 lead in the second quarter as Steve Young and Jerry Rice connect. Just over a minute later, Young and Rice hook up for a 69-yard touchdown. Young passes for 338 yards as the 49ers destroy the Bears 52-14, the worst beating Chicago has suffered in Coach Mike Ditka's 10-year career. So the playoff picture is settled. The Raiders will meet the Chiefs in Kansas City, and the NFC West Division champion Saints will host Atlanta. Now, that Chicago loss to San Francisco means that the Bears will host the Cowboys, while the final game on the weekend will feature the Jets and the Oilers. And in other NFL news, the San Diego Chargers have fired head coach Dan Henning. San Diego was 4-12 this season and 16 for 32 during Henning's 3 seasons. Basketball news. Dick Motta says he will retire as coach of Sacramento at the end of the season. Maybe Motta knows something. He has lost more NBA games than anyone, but is also third in career wins behind Red Auerbach and Jack Ramsey. And a couple of other things to tell you before we go. In hockey, the national junior team won an exhibition game in Germany 12-2. Canada is preparing for the World Junior Championships, which begin Thursday in Germany. And the Canadian team that won the Canada Cup hockey tournament last fall has been selected as Sports Team of the Year. Toronto Blue Jays finished second. The voting was for the Canadian Press Award. And that's our look at sports for this hour.
"'Twas the Night Before Christmas" is one of the best-loved holiday stories. Jonathan Freed asked some kids in Montreal what they thought about the classic Christmas tale.
Okay, boys and girls, we're going to do a story called The Night Before Christmas. How many of you know this story? Okay, 'twas the night before Christmas when all through the house
not a creature was stirring.
Not even a mouse.
What does that mean, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse?
No, nothing. There was nothing. Nobody was hearing anything. And there was nothing in the living room.
The stockings were hung
by the chimney with care,
in hopes that St. Nicholas
soon would be there.
Now, is that the real Santa?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Because I think it's because he has a cherry nose. And he's all red with a beard, with a white beard, and he's dressed in red. And white. And with a mustache.
Why do you believe in Santa Claus?
Because if Santa Claus wouldn't be here, we won't have any presents. I don't believe there's no Santa because I stay up until 10 o'clock sometimes and I never even see Santa Claus.
the moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below.
When what to my wondering eyes should appear
but a miniature sleigh
and 8 tiny reindeer.
Dasher, Prancer, and Vixen. Rudolph!
Has anybody here ever seen reindeer fly?
I saw Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
And then, in a twinkling,
I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof.
What would reindeer's feet on the roof sound like?
Boom, 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 boom. Not like this.
As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound.
If you put a fire in the chimney, then Santa can't come down.
Is the chimney the best way for Santa to come into a house?
No. Yeah. No. A door, window. If he goes down the chimney, if we wake up, we can stick a pin in him. He sprang to his sleigh.
To his team gave a whistle.
And away they all flew like the down of a thistle.
The wind helps the reindeers to fly. The nose sent magic to the wind. That's why the wind could make them fly.
But I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight,
Happy Christmas, all, and all good night! Merry Christmas!
Well, this time of year, we often hear stories about adults who find some way of making the holidays a little cheerier for needy children. Well, this is not one of those stories. Here's the NBC's Kenley Jones.
7-year-old Isis Johnson is like a lot of other second graders. On the playground, she's a whiz at jumping rope. But in the classroom, she uses her fingers to help with arithmetic. She endures predictable school lunches with her classmates and tries to emulate that oh-so-perfect technique of her ballet teacher. Ordinary in so many ways, yet there are many in New Orleans who will tell you that Isis Johnson is an extraordinary child.
Would you break out a kangaroo for the homeless and senior citizens for Christmas? Thank you.
For the third year in a row, Isis, with the help of her grandmother, has organized a successful food collection drive.
Because I like to help people and help the senior citizens for Christmas and the people that don't have any food to eat. We're doing good.
It began when Isis saw a television news report about the starving children of Ethiopia. She told her grandmother she wanted to help feed hungry children in New Orleans.
Okay. And I said, well, Isis, you don't want to feed children? She said, no, it's somebody that's hungry because God don't mean for anybody to be hungry, huh, Grandma? And I said, no, he sure doesn't.
Isis has been collecting food since Thanksgiving. Now, as her Christmas gift to the needy, the fruits of her labor are being distributed.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sweetheart. Same to you.
More than 4,000 food items she collected, including chickens purchased with cash donations, were distributed to about 100 families over the weekend. Will this food help you?
Oh, yes, sir. This will help us a lot.
I appreciate it.
This is wonderful. I think more children should get involved.
How does that make you feel?
Happy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Ask Isis what she wants to be when she grows up, and she says this.
I want to be a dancer, and I want to be a doctor to help people.
She may be a ballerina someday, or a doctor. But even if not, Isis Johnson has already made her mark helping people.
Merry Christmas.
Kenley Jones, NBC News, New Orleans.
When we return, we have a special guest.
We do indeed. Have you been good all year?
Ho, ho, ho.
I would hope so. He'll know.
I know he'll know. I'm in trouble.
Well, here he comes now. And you're going to be talking to him in a moment.
One more sleep until Christmas morning. All right, everyone. Merry Christmas.
For the top brands in hockey equipment and low prices, nobody addresses Canada's needs so completely as the more than 400 addresses of Canadian Tire. Giving you the time to turn that raw talent into tomorrow's pro.
You know, son, the goalies are the real stars of this game.
Hello, I'm Kathy Cookson for Valente Real Estate. We would like to wish you and your family a very happy holiday season. Now, the Valente Showcase is taking a short holiday vacation, but will resume on January 5th, and we invite you to tune in during the new year. In the meantime, all the best to your family from the Valente family.
Happy holidays from Valente! Better watch out. Better not cry.
Celebrate the holiday season with Anne Murray's Family Christmas.
Santa Claus is coming to town.
Starring Anne Murray and her special guests Alan Thicke, Glenn Campbell, Brian Orser, and George Fox.
Santa Claus is coming.
Family, friends, and music on Anne Murray's Family Christmas. Christmas Eve at 9:30 in Newfoundland on CBC. CBC presents the miniseries that lives up to the legend, Bethune.
How long do you plan to remain in China?
Till fascism is wiped off the face of this earth.
The sweeping saga of one man whose passions made him a hero.
Comrades, we salute you.
You'll lose a great woman who loves you. For humanity, you won't remember you 10 minutes after your death.
Bethune, the miniseries, starring Donald Sutherland, starting January 1st.
Made in China. That's what's on the label of a lot of toys that are being sold around the world this Christmas, but some people are calling for a boycott. They don't want shoppers to buy any more Chinese toys. Here's a report from the CBC's Patrick Brown.
Minnie may be just a mouse, but she and all the other toys made in China are big business.
Last year, China exported more than $2 billion worth of toys to the United States alone. In Canada, the campaign to keep the Chinese toys out is organized by the Tibet Support Group, opposed to China's occupation of Tibet and human rights abuses there.
Toys are one of the biggest manufacturing items for export by the People's Republic of China, and a boycott of toys would have a strong impact on the economy of China.
In the United States, organizers focus on child labor.
Until consumers are assured that no imported toys are made by exploited children, a general boycott on all toys made in China is necessary.
But the workers at the Jinhua toy factory in Beijing say they don't feel exploited. Their pay is above average for China. And Li Aihua suggests that the campaign is old-fashioned protectionism wearing human rights clothes. Of course, from their point of view, it's logical, she says, because they're afraid we'll take over their market. Competition's tough. China admits that children in their early teens do drop out of school and take jobs. But it says with considerable justice that its child labor record is better than many Asian countries. At the Laoshan Toy Company in Qingdao, manager Zhu Zhongxian says factories employing children are the deplorable exception, not the rule. These accusations are immoral, he says. China's a socialist country, and we care about the welfare of our workers. China is a repressive country, and because of that, ordinary workers have no say whatever in the government or its policies. Yet, they're the ones who'll lose well-paying jobs if the boycott is successful. The best argument for the boycott is that it's a way of putting pressure on a distasteful regime. The best argument against is that economic growth and higher living standards are more likely to change China than isolation. Patrick Brown, CBC News, Qingdao.
In Germany, one town may win its struggle to survive with the help of some Christmas toys. The town of Siefen has long been famous for its toy making, but as Martin Bell of the BBC reports, the town cannot afford to rest on its laurels.
In the hills south of Dresden, right up against the Czech border, lies the toy town of East Germany. Its name is Siefen. It lives by toys, and the toys that it produces are all around it. Even in the communist years, but especially now, its principal market is at Christmas time. And this year, it can also celebrate its survival in the market economy. The old East Germany produced very little that couldn't be made more cheaply or better somewhere else. The toy makers are determined to be an exception. Under pressure from Far Eastern competition, they've extended their range beyond the usual Father Christmases and pageant kings and queens. And the latest model? The eyes don't give it away, but the helmets do. Happy Christmas from the American GI Desert Storm Nutcracker, made for the export market and selling well. East German industry is doing what it must to survive. Martin Bell, BBC News, Germany.
That's our international report for this hour.
Well, hey, you may think that you're busy with presents at Christmas time, but there's one person who beats us all when it comes to Christmas giving. Taking time from his busy schedule to join us in our Halifax studios is Santa Claus himself. So, Santa, how are you?
Well, very well, thank you.
I have to tell you, I'm a little nervous.
Yes.
And my heart's pounding, my hands are sweating.
I understand.
When I was a kid, I stayed awake nights just waiting for you to show up, and here you are.
Yes, indeed. My lad sakes, we had a hard time getting you to bed, too.
So what's new?
Well, now, everything's about the same each and every year. Around about 8 o'clock or so, I start my rounds here in Nova
Well, aren't you on your way to Japan right now? Because it's night there.
Well, actually, I pick it up on the tail end, actually.
Oh, do you coming back?
Yes,
Oh, we'll
indeed.
talk about that in a minute, what your route is. I'm interested in that. How's Mrs. Claus?
Mrs. Claus is well, thank you. Very well indeed. Yes, she's packing all the presents and helping the elves wrapping and labeling and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And Rudolph?
Oh, Rudolph is as bright as ever. My lad sakes, Rudolph, yes. And I hope the boys and girls will leave a carrot for Rudolph. I hope so.
Oh, let me get that straight. Now, I always left you the carrot.
Oh, no, I'm not on that diet anymore.
Oh.
Lad sakes, no. I like cookies. They like to send me cookies and milk. And chocolate chip.
Chocolate chip's your favorite?
Yes, it is, yes.
I remember when I was a kid, you always asked if we've been naughty or nice.
Oh, well, I always ask just to make sure because, as you know, Santa knows if you are naughty or nice.
Is Santa ever naughty?
Oh, well, no. Santa sleeps most of the time after Christmas. I don't have time to be naughty. And then, of course, Christmas comes up pretty fast. It keeps me busy.
All right, now, do you take the same route every year, or do you change it?
Well, generally, I like to keep the same route, mainly because I don't want to confuse the reindeers, Dasher, Dancer, and so on.
Well, they're getting old.
Well, yes, they are indeed. But if there happens to be a terrible storm and we have to go around, well, then we'll make arrangements to go around.
And you never miss any of the kids?
Oh, not at all. I try to get them to be in bed early. I'd like them to be in bed early so that I can fit everyone in. I don't like to come back, but sometimes I have to for the ones that go to bed late.
Have you ever had a chimney you couldn't get down, or a chimney you couldn't get up, or a house you couldn't get into?
Oh, for sure. Yes, there's a lot of people, a lot of children today in apartments and condominiums. And don't you worry, boys and girls. I'll make sure that I bring my magic key, and that'll get me in the door.
So that's how you do it. You've got a magic key.
That's exactly right.
Well, Santa, what are the kids looking for this year?
Oh, my land sakes, is something else altogether. Quite a wide range of things, you know, some traditional toys and train sets and trucks for the boys. And now the girls, of course, are looking for the cupcake dolls and purples for Teresa. My land sakes, she's a good girl. And my, oh my, we have magic copiers and oh my, and drum sets. There's a few little boys would like drums and musical instruments. Keyboards are popular with the girls. They like to play the music, you know, and sing the songs. And, well, dolls especially for the little ones. And Baby Alive and Little Magic.
Well, I was wondering about that because, I mean, you know what it's like right now. And some parents aren't working, some moms and dads don't have a job.
Oh, I know.
It's hard for the kids. I thought maybe they, you know, it would be a bit simpler this year. Not all the fancy toys that we've had the last year.
Well, it's something that is happened over the last several years with the toys. And the children, I think, are understanding. I think that they know that it's not possible for Santa to bring everything. They understand that, so they're happy if they at least get one thing off their list.
Okay, now you told us a little bit about your route. You told us that your favorite cookies are chocolate chip. Try to remember that for tonight.
All right.
Do you ever get presents, and do you have a favorite Christmas song that you like to hear?
Oh, well. I like Santa Claus is Coming to Town. It really cheers me up quite a bit.
I guess that.
And presents, well, Santa does get the odd one or two, but surprisingly enough, not a great deal. My biggest present is to myself, just to make the boys and girls happy. That's just my present
So
to
is that
myself.
the best part of Christmas for you?
It really is the joy in their eyes, the tears,
But you know, why can't we see you? I mean, let's go back a bit.
Oh, my land sakes, you might be able to hear the bells and you might be able to hear the reindeer on the roof. But by the time that the little boys and girls get up to look out the window, it's just a flash. That's all. That's all.
So you don't really want them to see you, huh?
Oh, I'm moving too fast. They might be able to get a glimpse. But I am moving fast.
Just a glimpse, so no rides in the sleigh or anything like that?
Oh, no, land sakes, I have no time. I have to go all the way around the world.
Well, that's true, but you know, for wee ones, that's a bit hard for them.
Well, yes, indeed. Oh, well, I don't know what I can do. I try everything every year to make it a little different, a little more exciting, but, well, anyway.
Well, it's pretty exciting just having you in here today.
Well, thank you, my dear. It's very good talking to you today.
So, Santa, I think I've asked you all my questions, but I have to know, it's personal, it's selfish. Are you coming to our house?
Oh, I would imagine.
So I have two kids. They won't let me in the door unless I find out for sure that Santa's coming to our house tonight.
And what is it that I'm bringing in my sack for you?
For me?
Yes.
I'm getting a present.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Hey. Everyone
It's
gets
my year. My son wants a tractor. My daughter wants, heaven help me, a Barbie house.
Oh, a Barbie house. Well, of course, that's just a big toy. And I hope that she keets her room nice and tidy.
And there's a whole bunch back there in the newsroom. I mean, you saw them when you came in.
Oh, yes, I did. There they are.
They've got their list. And I tell you, they want everything that's on that list this year. Can you finish for us by giving us a great big ho, ho, ho and a Merry Christmas?
Well, I certainly can. And now, boys and girls, remember, I promise to be good in every way so that each and every day can be almost as good as Christmas Day. Merry Christmas, boys and girls. Good night to all. Merry Christmas. Oh,
thanks, Santa. Enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you now.
Santa Claus, he'll be here tonight.
Merry Christmas, Santa. Let's have a look and see what the weather's going to be like for your sleigh ride tonight.
All of the people we work with still believe in Santa, and it works.
Absolutely.
He was here.
He was here. He was in this chair, as a matter of fact.
Sitting in this chair.
In the very chair that I'm sitting in. What a wonderful experience this has been, having Santa on our program.
We'll be back with news and a lot more as the CBC Morning News continues live from Halifax. Stay with us.
See you in a couple of minutes.
What do you see in the Christmas clock now, Katie?
I see Christmas morning.
Is there anything under the tree?
Oh, there is.
Is it for you?
I think there's something there for everyone.
It's the week before Christmas, and only Zellers has Wonder Bra, Daisy Fresh, Warner's, Vogue, Playtex, Just My Size, all 1/3 off.
Still have time for one Christmas wish, Katie.
I wish everyone has a happy Christmas like ours.
And I wish that your wish comes true.
By these standards, I guess we didn't give you that much when you were a child.
Oh, I know, Mom, I know.
Oh, we all really have it good, you know. Makes a person feel a bit guilty sometimes.
I know what you mean. That's why Dave and I cut back a bit on gifts this year, and we put the money towards sponsoring a foster child in Africa. It doesn't cost that much through the foster parents plan.
Maybe we didn't do such a bad job of raising you after all.
Call Foster Parents Plan. Toll free 1-800-268-7174.
You've done it.
The Degrassi kids have graduated. Now, the real education begins.
It's an engagement ring.
Don't sacrifice your whole future for a guy.
Here I come.
Would you maybe like to go out sometime?
No more living with my grandparents.
She's going away to university next year. He'll still be in high school, like me.
This time, there's no turning back. School's out. The Degrassi movie special, January 5th. Brought to you by Tampax.
Hi, I'm Herb Calling, and I'd like to wish you and yours peace and goodwill for 1992 from CBC, radio you can rely on for the holidays.
A spokesman announces Mikhail Gorbachev will resign tomorrow as president of the Soviet Union. Good morning and thanks for joining us. I'm Joanne Stefanik. This is the CBC Morning News live from Newsworld Halifax.
Good morning, I'm Jordy Morgan from Turkey to Tummy Aches. Our Lifestyles panel is going to talk about the mixed blessings of the Christmas season, but first, here's Joanne with today's top story.
Thanks, Jordy. A Kremlin official said this morning that Mikhail Gorbachev will announce his resignation tomorrow on Soviet television. The TASS news agency says the speech will be broadcast at noon Eastern Time. Gorbachev's resignation has been widely expected since the formation of the Commonwealth of Independent States. He previously said he'll step down once the Commonwealth is legally ratified by the Soviet Parliament. The Parliament of the former Soviet Union met in what might have been its final session in Moscow this morning. Deputies had planned to debate a resolution to officially dismantle the country, but different deputies from Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus refused to show up. It seems there weren't enough people in the room to form a quorum. Earlier, we spoke with CBC reporter Anna Maria Tremonti in Moscow and asked her what the deputies did manage to accomplish.
The deputies have adjourned. They did pass a resolution calling for a larger Congress of People's Deputies to deal with this. There weren't that many of them in the room, but they were pretty desperate to cling to power. They talked about the fact that it was unconstitutional, that there should be more organization, there has to be a smoother transition. They didn't resolve a thing. They debated. A few people said, look, this is inevitable, let's just go with it. And they ended after about 2 hours with absolutely no conclusion. They can't get a quorum in the upper house without Russian deputies. They make up about 70%. In the lower house, which met this morning, they make up about a quarter of the deputies. Other people stayed away as well. I think they don't know what to do. They were flailing around today and debating and arguing, but there's no one who's able to take some control and tell them what they should do. And again, they're very reluctant just to say, our dissolution is inevitable, let's agree to it. They want things done their way, and they continue to say that it's unconstitutional.
The CBC's Anna Maria Tremonti joined us by phone earlier this morning from Moscow.
In the United States, an official says President George Bush is ready to recognize Russia as the successor to the Soviet Union. And sources say Washington will recommend that Russia replace the Soviet Union on the Security Council of the United Nations. Analysts say the move signals the end of American relations with Mikhail Gorbachev. Washington is also expected to formally recognize the independence of the other former Soviet republics. That announcement is expected a little later in the week. The TASS news agency is saying that opposition forces are attacking the parliament buildings in the Georgian Republic with howitzers and machine gun fire this morning. The agency says the shelling began shortly after daybreak. The Georgian president, Zviad Gamsakhardia, took refuge from the shelling in the basement of the parliament buildings. At least 30 people have been killed since the fighting for the government buildings began on Sunday. The president has repeatedly refused to surrender to the opposition forces.
I should say that it is a coup against the government of Georgia, against legitimately elected authorities, which have been elected by the people, and these are destructive forces that refer to themselves as Democrats and which disguise themselves as Democrats, but in fact they are people who are seeking to bring about destabilization, anarchy, and a civil war in Georgia in order to get hold of power one way or other.
The IRA has announced a 72-hour Christmas truce in its guerrilla war to force the British out of Northern Ireland. The IRA says the ceasefire will end at midnight on Thursday. The British minister responsible for Northern Ireland says that he welcomes the truce, and he called on the IRA to give up violence for good. In spite of the goodwill gesture, security authorities say they're keeping soldiers and police on full alert during the holiday period. Here at home, a lot of parents across the country are worried that their children could become ill with meningitis. In the last several weeks, the disease has killed a teenager in Charlottetown, 3 teenagers in Ottawa, and a toddler in Kamloops, British Columbia. There haven't been any deaths reported in Nova Scotia, but as Angela Yazbek tells us now, parents in Halifax have been warned to watch their children closely for any symptoms of the disease.
For most of these children, Christmas is the concern of the day. But many of their parents have a lot more on their minds. A couple of weeks ago, a little boy from another daycare center in Halifax was taken to hospital with meningococcemia. It's not meningitis, but it's caused by the same bacteria that's caused recent deaths across the country. There have been 16 cases of this type of bacteria in Nova Scotia this year. This daycare director is taking no chances. A few days ago, she sent letters out to all parents warning them about the disease.
If it's something like meningitis, it can come very serious very quickly.
So basically what I told parents is be on the safe side and get your child checked by the doctor.
But the health department says the cases in Nova Scotia are isolated and there's no need to panic. Parents, though, should be aware of the symptoms.
You notice that your child is not alert, is disoriented, doesn't respond, is staring off into space, then that's a sign that you have to worry about. That's a sign of someone who's really sick. Also, headache or a stiff neck are other things that should make people think meningitis.
LeBlanc wants parents to know there will always be outbreaks of this type of disease, but the chance of a child contracting it are rare. Angela Asbeck, CBC News, Halifax.
In Manitoba, a special prosecutor will handle the case of 4 police officers suspended for their alleged involvement in a break-and-enter ring. At a hearing into the suspensions yesterday, lawyers for 2 of the men said their clients haven't been treated fairly. Diana Swain has that story.
The 2 officers, Constable Darrell Lee Evans and Constable Ronald War, have been suspended without pay, pending an investigation of their alleged roles in a break-and-enter ring. 2 other officers charged in the case are continuing to receive pay during their suspensions. A lawyer for the Winnipeg Police Association argued that's not fair, but Deputy Police Chief Joe Gallagher disagreed. In the case of Mr. War, his involvement is considerably more than the other 2 officers. We believe he was involved in the planning of at least one of the offenses and took a leading role in at least one offense. Police lawyer Al McGregor argued the force is behaving as though Evans and War have been convicted. He cited a news release issued by Chief Herb Stevens shortly after the charges were laid. It says, the allegations of criminal activities are a betrayal of trust of fellow officers. Under cross-examination, Gallagher admitted the wording was a bad choice, and he denied charges the suspensions constitute disciplinary action. McGregor, to suspend without pay is not discipline? Gallagher, that was not intended to be discipline. McGregor, they lose dental coverage, life insurance, and other benefits. Are you aware of that? Gallagher, no, sir. The hearings will break for the holidays and resume January 27th. In the meantime, Constables War and Evans will continue to be suspended from the force without pay. Diana Swain, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Alberta government has backed down from a controversial plan to relocate hundreds of provincial government employees. The government had wanted to move workers in the agriculture department out of Edmonton and into rural areas, but many of the employees didn't want to go. Holly Doan has more on that story.
A lot of Alberta government employees are thanking their boss, the Minister of Agriculture, for a Christmas present. Back up just 9 months now. Same place, same employees, defying the boss, fighting his plan to break up the department and move 250 jobs to rural Alberta.
My husband will not move because he makes more than I do. So if you run into a division that has a lot of female complement who are not the major breadwinners, you're going to lose a lot of expertise.
Ernie Isley wanted to move the Department of Agriculture closer to people in rural Alberta. It's called decentralization. And Alberta government employees in Edmonton aren't the only ones who hate it. Decentralization caused an even bigger fuss in Regina, where employees swore they'd bring down Premier Grant Devine's Conservative government. While all that was going on, Alberta's Minister of Agriculture was studying decentralization. What Ernie Isley found out is that it would cost the government another $750,000 a year to run a decentralized Department of Agriculture. The minister still likes the idea of bringing the services closer to the people in rural Alberta who use them, but not for that price. He didn't plan it this way, but the Minister of Agriculture has delivered a gift to at least 250 employees because he decided not to spend any extra money on decentralization this Christmas. Holly Doan, CBC News, Edmonton.
For a lot of Canadians, the rush to get ready for Christmas is finally ending today. The tree is up, the presents are wrapped, and the next few days reserved for family and friends. As Jeff Bohatch tells us, now in some places, Christmas is the perfect time for a sleigh ride.
These sleighs are being driven by members of the Saskatchewan Pleasure Driving Club.
We donate our horses and our time to the museum, and we give rides and take donations for the rides, and that goes to projects that we do, like building these sleighs.
Before they can take off, laughing all the way, they have to fix the sleighs. They rebuild cutters that people donate to the museum. Most need new wooden frames and runners, and some need new everything.
Well, this particular unit here, a fellow donated that to the museum. When we first heard about it, he told us that it would be perfect shape. All we had to do was hook the horses to it and we could use it. Now, that's what it looks like. It's going to be a while yet before we can hook horses to it.
Once a sleigh is rebuilt, it's as good as new. This used to be the best way to get around in the wintertime, and for some, it still is.
If we didn't enjoy it, I guess we wouldn't be doing it. Yeah, so we do an awful lot of kids. Makes you feel pretty good when you get some of the little kids get in and they sing a song and they thank you for it, and they really appreciate it.
Oh, my God, you ride and let her open sleigh. Hey!
For CBC News, I'm Jeff Bohat.
Jingle all the way. How much fun it is to ride on the one.
The time right now, 12 minutes past the hour, 18 minutes to a Newfoundland, and Jordy's in to bring us up to speed, I guess, on the NFL.
But that looked like a good sport to pursue, didn't it?
It
Sleigh
did.
riding?
It did.
It looked like lots of fun. But we're going to talk about the football. NFL, the Chicago lost to San Francisco last night, 52-14. That means Detroit wins the NFC Central Division with a 12-4 record. So the matchups are set for this weekend. Kansas City's going to host Los Angeles on Saturday. The Falcons will travel to New Orleans in the other Saturday game. And instead of having the weekend off, Chicago is going to play the Cowboys on Sunday. The final weekend game will feature the 8-8 Jets in Houston to take on the Oilers. Well, the San Diego Chargers have given the hook to head coach Dan Henning after 3 losing seasons. San Diego was 4-12 this season and 16 games under 500 in the 48 games that he was at the helm.
And they make a change. I think the bottom line is what's come down here, and I have no argument with that. We haven't won.
We have a few hockey notes to tell you about. The team that won the Canada Cup hockey tournament last fall has been named Sports Team of the Year in Canada. And the New York Rangers have traded Corey Millen to Los Angeles for Randy Gillen. And some baseball news as well. A group of business and civic leaders in Portland, Oregon has proposed that the Seattle Mariners play some of their games in Portland and Vancouver. That's Vancouver, Washington. They believe the 10 and 20 game Portland schedule could bring an additional 10 to 15 million per year and help keep the Mariners in the Northwest. That is our look at sports notes. We'll have a complete sportscast for you in about 20 minutes. Right now, here is your Wednesday morning scoreboard. I'm going to ask.
Canada's largest trust company has taken the unusual step of trying to reassure investors about its earnings. Pat Bolland at Business World has more on the story. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning, Joanne.
First of all, what is Royal Trustco saying about its earnings?
Well, for the fourth quarter, which is the last quarter of the year, they're going to take a write-down of $100 million. That's to say that what they had before in terms of assets isn't quite worth what it was, so they take a write-down. $70 million is based in London, England, real estate. Another $15 million in Canadian loans, and another $15 in U.S. loans. So the fourth quarter write-down is a substantial one. They had one as well last year, $163 million in London real estate at that time, which at that time they thought was as low as it was going to go.
But Pat, why make this kind of announcement?
Well, the stock has been under a lot of pressure recently and hit a low this past week of $6.25. There's been a lot of speculation that the write-offs would be very huge. So what you're seeing is a public relations move before the actual corporate earnings come out and tried to define that, no, we don't have a problem in our U.S. operations. Our problem comes from London, England, where they had invested substantially through the 1980s. Having said that, however, a good portion of their portfolio, about $125 million, was transferred out of the U.S. operations to another holding company. So there is a little bit of book juggling going on here at Royal Trustco, but effectively they're trying to make things look as bright as they can for investors.
And how's the rest of the company doing?
Well, they're going to have an operating income of about $340 million this year. That's up $140 million from last year. So on an operating basis, doing quite well, thank you very much. In terms of its actual earnings after all these write-downs and so on, it'll be somewhere over $100 million. They wouldn't say what the number would be exactly. And they are going to continue to pay their dividend, which is 74 cents a year, almost 10.5% yield at the current stock price.
Okay, Pat, thanks for this. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Joanne.
We've been speaking with our Newsworld business analyst, Pat Bolland. He joined us live from our studio in Toronto. And now on to Christmas gifts. Board games in particular are always a popular gift at Christmas. Every year, I guess a few new ones manage to pop up. Their creators hope to copy the success of games like Trivial Pursuit, which made millions of dollars for its makers. The competition is stiff, but some creative inventors still hope to strike it rich. Bob Gillingham reports.
This is a clip from a promotional tape for a board game produced in Vancouver. It's called Monty's Maze.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you don't need the exact roll to get to the tomb of your choice.
The game combines the adventures of an Indiana Jones type named Monty with the strategies of Monopoly.
So all the treasures on my expedition are safe, and I get to take them off, and I get to keep them.
The game is being mass-produced here, at least in part, in the home of its creator, Jerry Bilecki.
A little bit of ingenuity and some old milk cartons, and this collating machine has served me very well. And saved a little money.
Bilecki quit his job as a school teacher 2 years ago to work full-time at producing the game. He spent $80,000 on it so far.
You get the first roll, and you try to make it to the outer board, one of the 3 doors.
He knows that approximately 3,000 new games are introduced in Canada every year, and that only a handful of those ever make any money at all.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
You're on the verge of making money, but you haven't made any yet.
Exactly. If we can go into year 3, we're already planning for year 3 and increase our volume to perhaps 10,000 games, it would be a nice family business, and we could survive in British Columbia, and we're looking at that. You're allowed to put 1 treasure aboard that camel.
Bilecki's showing his game at Woodward's in Oak Ridge, and the reaction has been favorable.
I think I'll probably consult my daughter and see if she thinks that her husband might like it for a Christmas present.
You think you'd buy it?
Yeah, not right now, but probably eventually. Because I have a bunch of friends, and they're all into board games. So.
You remember, you only have 30 seconds, and the first person to get this one right gets to move.
These people are looking at another board game being displayed at Eaton's in the Pacific Center.
You rolled up a You Lucky Devil, which means you move ahead to the next player.
David Ewan produces this one. It's called Zounds Alike. It challenges players to descramble letters to form words within a time limit.
For example, if you rolled up number 4, you roll a die. Actually, you roll up die, you roll up number 4. Right. You have to try and solve number 4.
Ewan also says he hasn't made any money yet, but is hopeful that he'll eventually break even.
How's it been so far this year?
Well, the response we've had with the newspapers and some of the radio stations has been excellent.
Customers seem to like this game.
You think you'll get to spend a lot of hours with it?
Yeah.
Why did you buy the game?
Well, for something for them to do, because we're on holidays and it's pretty cold here, so I'll be staying in most of the time. Pretty freezing.
The game can be played by anyone 12 years and up, and people can even make up their own words.
Let's see. Half a white Christmas. Oh, okay. Have a white Christmas.
That's what it sounds like.
Have a white Christmas. Bob Gillingham, CBC News.
Let's take a look now at the markets before we leave business. The Canadian dollar today worth 86.30 cents U.S., with the U.S. dollar buying 1.1587 Canadian. Overseas markets, London's FT 100 up 39 points. Tokyo's Nikkei closed down 112.59 points. And the Dow Jones ended yesterday up 88.10. In Canada, the TSE 300 closed yesterday up 37.30. Montreal's market portfolio index up 30.44 points. And the composite index in Vancouver ending the day up as well, 3.71. Gold is trading in London this morning at $359.40 U.S. Now that's down 15 cents U.S. from yesterday's closing. In New York, the near-month contract for light sweet crude up 26 cents, with the price settling out at $18.78 U.S. a barrel. And we'll have more business news later.
Well, Christmas is a time when we want to forget about our national problems like the recession and the Constitution. But as Henry Lehman tells us, there's no escape, not even in Toyland.
5e étage, 5th floor.
There's no getting away from it. Even here in the land of fantasy, there are all the problems we see in regular society. There's pollution, there's talk of a distinct society, of separation. Why, there's even incipient war. Well, here we are in Place Barbie at Barbie Land. Place Barbie is kind of declared independence. It's separated from the rest of the other toy lands over here.
There's no duplicate.
This is a distinct society,
Yeah,
as a matter of fact,
yeah,
isn't
that's right.
It is a distinct society.
That's right.
I mean, this whole area we're standing
That's right.
in here.
It's only Barbie. There's
sort of-
nothing else that compares to Barbie. Petit monde, petit monde. Oui.
You know, it's a world in here, as a matter of fact. And are you introducing your baby to this world? Is it sort of a first time, a tourist? Elle est touriste dans le monde de...
Oui, c'est ça. Petit monde de Barbie.
The child over here is a tourist at Barbie Land.
No.
I know you're busy and you've got a lot of other things to do, and I understand that perfectly well. But just give me a second here and tell me about what of your busy time here. This is a girl.
Yeah.
How can you tell?
But it's a decoration.
Decoration. This distinct society is a kind of, no muss, no fuss, no grime, a constant emphasis on bubble baths and cleanliness and the washing of hands, and of course, the all-important brushing of hair.
You see some of the dresses she has?
Yeah. Tell me what
Speaks for itself, huh?
She's nice, she's clean, she's tidy, but in this distinct society, do we have is there a bit of materialism? Is that what you're...
Yes, is that what you're trying to pull out of me? Yes, there's materialism.
What goes on? I mean, I'm not part of that world either. I sort of just look on from a distance and wonder, is everything okay in there? Is there any crime, any problems psychologically?
Well, there must be. I mean, it's like kind of dynasty thing, isn't it? That the whole, and we all know they have problems, right?
Oh my, it looks like something here has been kind of, something's amiss, something's been kind of broken into. Ninja Turtles, and they're not in the water anymore. They're up in the air, flying around. I just hope they don't fly over by Place Barbie and do anything over there. I just let's hope they just stay right here in the outlands.
When I see them, my sons, they watch ninjas, and right after watching it, they're jumping off couches and,
in other words, it's kind of scary here.
It is scary.
Barbie, do you think she looks pretty calm, composed, even cold? Do you think that aware of all this? Does Barbie have anything to do with Ninja Turtles? Do you think there's once in a while she, maybe feeds one or goes out on the occasional date just to be nice?
No.
With all the problems around here, with all the violence, the monsters, the toxic things and all that, who can blame Barbie for wanting a society of her own, a distinct society separate and perhaps unto itself? But, when I look at her, that perfect smile frozen on her face, that glacial skin, those open eyes, I sometimes just wish she'd just, show a little bit of feelings, maybe just sort of frown a little or throw a tantrum or even start an argument. Could we just have just a tiny bit of feeling here?
Well, it's amazing. The Lego wall has come down. There's an independent Barbie land. How things can change in just a year.
Just like that.
Just like that.
The War of the Barbies.
Coming up in just a moment or so, we're going to have our half-hour look at the news.
As the CBC Morning News continues live for Newsworld Halifax, stay with us.
Hello, I'm Mo Campbell. An automobile dealership is more than new cars and trucks. It's people. I can honestly say we have some of the finest, down-to-earth salespeople as part of the Mo Campbell family. Sue Wheeler is one of those people. Sue offers an honest approach and a friendly smile. She will show you how easy it is to become the proud owner of a brand new Lincoln Mercury car or truck.
At Mo Campbell Lincoln Mercury, people like Sue and her personal service to you, our customer, has made us #1. It's a strength we continue to build on.
George Fox, Country on Campus.
People say there's nothing you can do.
Canada's hottest country artist, George Fox, stars in a brand new television special. With his guests, Patricia Conroy, Cashton, the Sky Diggers, Trisha Yearwood, and Garth Brooks. Coming to CBC and you. George Fox, Country on Campus, Friday at 9 p.m., 9:30 in Newfoundland.
Dear Santa, last year we had a fire, and all the toys you gave us burned. The big fire truck came. Mom cried. The firefighter had to carry me outside. Dad saved my favorite teddy bear, Love Morgan. P.S. Mom says that 85% of all fire deaths in Canada are from home fire. So she had a sprinkler system and new smoke detectors put in.
It can happen to you. A message from the Canada Safety Council. Have a fire-free holiday season.
Okay, bring in the city. Good. Now, add some perspective, please. And bring in the mountains. Nice, nice. But let's try the mountains at sunset. Okay, we should balance the picture. Move the mountains to the right. No. Go left again. That's it. Cue music. And stand by. Cue announcer.
Television advertising. We can move mountains for less than you think.
Good morning. An aide to Mikhail Gorbachev said this morning that the Soviet president will announce his resignation tomorrow at noon Eastern Time. Andrei Grachev says the decision was reached in consultation with Russian President Boris Yeltsin. Gorbachev had already said he'll step down once the new Commonwealth is legally ratified by the Soviet Parliament. The Parliament of the former Soviet Union met in what should have been its final session in Moscow this morning. Deputies had planned to debate a resolution to officially dismantle the country, but deputies from Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine refused to show up. There weren't enough people in the room to form a quorum. Earlier, we spoke with CBC reporter Anna Maria Tremonti in Moscow and asked her what the deputies did manage to accomplish.
The deputies have adjourned. They did pass a resolution calling for a larger Congress of People's Deputies to deal with this. There weren't that many of them in the room, but they were pretty desperate to cling to power. They talked about the fact that it was unconstitutional, that there should be more organization, there has to be a smoother transition. They didn't resolve a thing. They debated. A few people said, look, this is inevitable, let's just go with it. And they ended after about 2 hours with absolutely no conclusion. They can't get a quorum in the upper house without Russian deputies. They make up about 70%. In the lower house, which met this morning, they make up about a quarter of the deputies. Other people stayed away as well. I think they don't know what to do. They were flailing around today and debating and arguing, but there's no one who's able to take some control and tell them what they should do. And again, they're very reluctant just to say, our dissolution is inevitable, let's agree to it. They want things done their way, and they continue to say that it's unconstitutional.
The CBC's Anna Maria Tremonti joined us by phone from Moscow. The TASS news agency says opposition forces are attacking the parliament buildings in the Georgian Republic with howitzers and machine gun fire this morning. The agency says the shelling began shortly after daybreak. The Georgian president, Sviat Gamsakhardia, took refuge from the shelling in the basement of the parliament buildings. At least 30 people have been killed since the fight for the government buildings began on Sunday. The president has repeatedly refused to surrender.
I should say that it is a coup against the government of Georgia, against legitimately elected authorities, which have been elected by the people. And these are destructive forces that refer to themselves as Democrats and which disguise themselves as Democrats, but in fact, they are people who are seeking to bring about destabilization, anarchy, and a civil war in Georgia in order to get hold of power one way or other.
The opposition has threatened to step up its attack if Gamsak Hardia doesn't resign immediately. And in Azerbaijan today, there are reports of ethnic violence near the disputed border with Armenia. TASS news agency is quoting the Azerbaijan Interior Ministry as saying a group of Armenians made an overnight attack on a village near the border. The ministry says 20 Azerbaijanis were killed. Among the dead, several women, children, and senior citizens. There's no independent confirmation of the TASS report. Well, on this Christmas Eve day in Bethlehem, many Palestinians are on strike. They've shut down their stores and restaurants to tourists. It is the 5th anniversary of the Intifada, and security is heavy in the community that is the birthplace of Christ. Stan Bernard of NBC News reports.
In Bethlehem, just a few decorations this year, the 5th Christmas of the Intifada. The reminders are inescapable of the confrontation between Palestinians, nearly half of them Christians in Bethlehem, and the Israelis.
We're going to head back to the bus now, and so please stay together.
There is a slight resurgence of tourism, which once drove the economy of this town.
Any pictures, please, from the inside of the church?
It's good to be here in Bethlehem. It's been a lifelong dream to come here and see where my Savior was born.
But the mayor of Bethlehem, who is one of the peace negotiators and just returned from the failed session in Washington, says for his people, the continued occupation casts a pall.
People are not in a mood or the spirit to celebrate Christmas, so Christmas will be limited tomorrow.
The Christians of Bethlehem will celebrate Christmas, but it will be a tentative celebration with fervent prayers for peace. Stan Bernard, NBC News, the Holy Land.
The time right now, 26 before the hour, 4 past in Newfoundland.
We're going to start with one of the most intense rivalries in all of hockey. Edmonton Oilers and Calgary Flames. Historically, these two clubs have been duking it out for first in the Smythe division, but last night in Edmonton, the Flames were trying to close in on the third-place Oilers. We pick it up in the second, tied at 1, and Edmonton's Dave Manson puts the slap shot by Mike Vernon. The Oilers lead 2-1. 'Tis the season for giving, and Edmonton's Bill Ranford plays Santa to Joe Nieuwendyk. Nieuwendyk's sixth makes it 2-2. The Flames then take the lead on the power play. Sergei Makarov puts in Al McGinnis's rebound. It's 3-2 Flames, but Edmonton will come back. Dave Manson will tie it, and Vince Stamfus scores 2 as Edmonton goes on to beat Calgary 5-3. On to Toronto, Winnipeg in town. Leafs Mike Foligno breaks his lower right leg in this collision with Luciano Borsato. Foligno is probably gone for the season. And some strong forechecking leads to Toronto's first goal. Daniel Marois is there to put the Leafs in front 1-0. The Jets will tie it on the power play. Some nice passing here. Housley to Stu Barnes to make it 1 apiece. The Maple Leafs come back to lead 2-1 after the first as Mike Krushelnyski feeds Alexander Godinyak. Toronto gets its first win in 8 games, 3-1 over Winnipeg. Now, the largest crowd in Rangers history, including Ernie from Sesame Street, was on hand to see the Devils and the Rangers in a Patrick matchup. New York is up 1-0 in the second, when Brian Leach sends Mike Gartner in all alone, and Gartner scores his second of the game, and that's his 20th of the season. Still in the second, and the Rangers go up 3-0 on Darren Turcotte's power play goal. New York goalie Mike Richter makes 25 saves to earn his third shutout this season as the Rangers go on to beat the Devils 3-0. The other New York team, the Islanders, were hosting Pittsburgh, and Joey Mullen scores 2 in the first to put the Penguins in front. But then Wendell Young exchanges gifts with Pierre Turgeon and loses 2-1 Penguins. But the Pens go 5 for 9 on the power play, and Joey Mullen has 4 goals as the Penguins beat the Islanders 6-3. Our final stop is in Hartford, where the visiting Sabres go up 1-0 on this blast from Kevin Haller. Hartford comes back. John Cullen has a goal and 2 assists as the Whalers down the Sabres 4-3. NFL now, 49ers home to the Bears. Chicago needed a win to capture the NFC Central Division and a bye from this weekend's playoffs. San Fran takes a 14-0 lead in the second quarter as Steve Young and Jerry Rice connect. Just over a minute later, Young and Rice hook up for a 69-yard touchdown Young passes for 338 yards as the 49ers destroy the Bears 52-14, the worst beating Chicago has suffered in Coach Mike Ditka's 10-year career. So the playoff picture is settled. The Raiders will meet the Chiefs in Kansas City, and the NFC West Division champion Saints will host Atlanta. And that Chicago loss to San Francisco means that the Bears will host the Cowboys, while the final game on the weekend will feature the Jets and the Oilers. And in other NFL news, the San Diego Chargers have fired head coach Dan Henning. San Diego was 4-12 this season and 16 for 32 during Henning's 3 seasons. Basketball news. Dick Motta says he will retire as coach of Sacramento at the end of the season. Maybe Motta knows something. He has lost more NBA games than anyone, but is also third in career wins behind Red Auerbach and Jack Ramsey. And a couple of other things to tell you before we go. In hockey, the national junior team won an exhibition game in Germany 12-2. Canada is preparing for the World Junior Championships, which begin Thursday in Germany. And the Canadian team that won the Canada Cup hockey tournament last fall has been selected as Sports Team of the Year. Toronto Blue Jays finished second. The voting was for the Canadian Press Award. And that's our look at sports for this hour.
In Canada, there are a number of ways to get home for the holidays. You can go by car, by plane. Some people take the ferry. But few Canadians make a trip like the one some people make to an isolated region in Quebec. It is the Lower North Shore, a string of communities that stretch from Sept-Îles to the border of Labrador. Tom Kennedy has the story.
When you live in this part of Quebec, the Nordique is a lifeline. An ordinary-looking ship, really, but for nearly 7,000 people, it's an essential service. On board are winter supplies for communities that will soon be cut off by the ice. And there are passengers. People like the Osborns, going home for Christmas.
By the time I get to Harrington, I would have been on the road for at least 5 days.
Bonnie Osborne lives in Ottawa now, where she goes to school. Her aunt and uncle live not far from Montreal, where their children go to school. It's almost routine along the coast here. Children leave to study. Parents sometimes leave with them, and it's hard to return.
If they would put a road down the coast, I'd go home tomorrow. Yeah.
You had access to get to things, yeah? But right now, there's nothing. You don't have no access to any of those things.
I'd rather live away. I wouldn't want to live back here. It's too small.
Many local organizers have been trying to convince governments to build a road up here. Without it, many believe the coast will always be dependent on a declining fishing industry. Randy Jones lives in the village of La Tabertière, where he's been lobbying governments for more economic development.
Over the past 10 years, we went from 650 people down to 447, I think, right now, in this community. And that's basically the same story in every community.
But those who work on the Nordique believe they will be filling a need for a long time yet.
I don't think there's going to be a road from House St. Pierre to Barcelona before I die.
In a couple of weeks, the ice will get too thick for the Nordique. The service will stop until the spring. Getting in or out of many of the communities will mean often a long snowmobile ride to one of a few scattered airports. A lifestyle that was once fairly common has become a curiosity of modern times, and for many people, not very attractive. At dawn, 2 days after it left its home port, the Nordique approaches stop number 9 on its run, Harrington Harbor, population 350. The Osborns are home. Another family is reunited for Christmas. One of the assets of the North Shore is that people are very attached to their villages. Many leave, but some return, and the region is home to about 7,000 people. It's difficult to get here, but for many, it's difficult to leave, too. And when distance is measured in the time it takes to get there, the rest of the province seems very far away. Tom Kennedy, CBC News, on Quebec's Lower North Shore.
That's one way of getting home for the holidays.
Well, one person who is home for the holidays is Bill Carr. He's moved back to Halifax permanently.
Yes, we have him now. We've got him.
We've got him, and we're not going to let him go. And Donna Butt's going to join us from Newfoundland as well. What's your favorite part of Christmas? Do you have any real favorite things that stick out in your mind immediately?
Asleep, yeah.
get to sleep until 6, 6:15.
Hey, tomorrow I get to sleep until 6, that's right.
We're going to talk about some of the favorite things about Christmas and some of the things that aren't quite so favorite with our lifestyle panel in just a moment on the CBC Morning News, live from Newsworld, Halifax.
What do you see in the Christmas clock now, Katie?
I see Christmas morning.
Is there anything under the tree?
Oh, there is.
Is it for you?
I think there's something there for everyone.
It's the week before Christmas, and only Zellers has Wonder Bra, Daisy Fresh, Warner's, Vogue, Playtex, Just My Size, all 1/3 off.
Still have time for one Christmas wish, Katie.
I wish everyone has a happy Christmas like ours.
And I wish that your wish comes true.
Celebrate the holiday season with Anne Murray's Family Christmas. Starring Anne Murray and her special guests Alan Thicke, Glenn Campbell, Brian Orser, and George Fox. Family, friends, and music on Anne Murray's Family Christmas. Christmas Eve at 9, 9:30 in Newfoundland on CBC.
I'm Kathy Cookson for Valente Real Estate. We would like to wish you and your family a very happy holiday season. Now, the Valente Showcase is taking a short holiday vacation, but will resume on January 5th. And we invite you to tune in during the new year. In the meantime, all the best to your family from the Valente family.
Happy holidays from Valente!
By these standards, I guess we didn't give you that much when you were a child.
Oh, I know, Mom, I know.
Oh, we all really have it good, you know. Makes a person feel a bit guilty sometimes.
I know what you mean. That's why Dave and I cut back a bit on gifts this year, and we've put the money towards sponsoring a foster child in Africa. It doesn't cost that much through Foster Parents Plan.
Maybe we didn't do such a bad job of raising you after all.
Call Foster Parents Plan. Toll free 1-800-268-7174.
Christmas is one of the big events of the year for very many Canadians, not most. It brings together family and friends and their parties and gift-giving, frivolity, all that fun. But it's also a time when you've got to be nice to that person in your family or friend, or have that aggravating uncle over for dinner. So Christmas has its good points, it has its bad points, and with their thoughts on this rather weighty topic, we join our regular lifestyle panel, which is actor and humorist Bill Carr, who escaped from Toronto and is now joining us in Halifax on a more permanent basis.
Yes.
Welcome back to Nova Scotia, Bill.
Thank you very much.
And in Newfoundland, theater producer Donna Butt joining us from her regular post in St. John's. Good morning.
Good morning.
I got to start with you, Bill, just
Yes.
to find out what your just favorite thing about Christmas is.
See, we've got a problem here. I was told to get the favorite and the least favorite thing about Christmas, and I tried to put it in sort of a cogent package for you, but it didn't work that way because I find it sort of a yin and a yang thing. They happen simultaneously. It's an emotional roller coaster for me the entire Christmas season. I was coming through New Brunswick and I heard that there was a Christmas party for depressives and manic depressives, and I thought I can relate to that because it's got to be a difficult time for people. And see, it's very bad for me because I became sensitive even before Ralph Benmergui did, and I went too far with it. I went all the way to wimp, you know, and I cry at McDonald's commercials and Latter-day Saints promos, can't even watch them. So when it comes to Christmas, I'm a wreck. You know, I watch my kids do the tree and I go, look, isn't that beautiful? They're doing the tree. It's you know, and the kids want to know why I'm crying, you know, so it happens at the same moment, and I find it very difficult.
Donna?
Well, I started my day-to-day with a sore throat, and I think I'm getting laryngitis. So I started by saying, Wilson, I think I'm getting laryngitis. He said, great, best Christmas present you could give me. Wrap it up. Keep it all year round. And last night we put up our very first outside Christmas tree, you know, because I live in a small town called Poochcove, and everybody else got lights on their tree in our lane. So we put up a tree outside. The wind blew last night. We got up this morning. This is true. Tree on the ground, all the lights smashed, everything gone. Christmas, right? But my worst Christmas, I sort of went back to years ago when I was thinking about it, you know, in the early 70s. And I was, Christmas is family in Newfoundland. Family is everything, and my family are very, very close. And I was doing the mortal sin of living with somebody. And you know what that's like. But I was, you know, a great revolutionary and radical, and I was going to live with somebody. And so I brought my parents a gift, and I spent every last cent that I had, because none of us had any money then. We were all going to university. Every last cent to bring this present up. I brought it up. I laid it in the living room. Everybody started crying. My mother started crying. My father started crying. My grandmother started yelling at me. So I went back out, and I said, it's terrible, Jack. And Jack said, well, let's go visit my parents. They don't mind if we do things like this. And I said, well, you go visit your bloody parents. I'm not going to visit your parents. They don't care about things like this. I went back to this little tiny room we were living at. I took Mao's red book and burnt it. I threw Saul Alinsky in the garbage. I left Jack and went home to my family.
This is a thing that sometimes I think is forgotten to do at Christmas time. As somebody said while they're unloading their luggage from their car to come and visit you, that nobody puts up a sign that says, please leave your emotional baggage outside. Bill, does this come along with Christmas? Is this part of having relatives over?
No, it's extremely important. And the thing is, this whole negative thing about Christmas, you know, they'll say, oh, yes, but there was this uncle, you know, who's not really related, but we have to deal with him every Christmas and roll him out from under the tree and stuff. They're my favorite. I mean, if it weren't for them, what are the stories you talk about? You say about opening the presents, how the kids looked, and the uncle that you had to roll out from under the tree. I mean, that becomes the topic of conversation. That's why I say it's an emotional roller coaster, because I think they all go together, and that's what makes it fun. You're so fully alive that when you go to numb your mind at New Year's, you're ready for it, you know.
Do you feel committed to niceness, Donna, at Christmas time?
Well, it's a hard commitment for me, but I try at Christmas time. My grandmother is unfortunately passed away this summer, and it's kind of sad, but Christmas, I guess, is about family and the passing on of traits. And so I'm considered sort of stubborn and cantankerous like my grandmother. And all of my best Christmas memories are all of my grandmother in Spaniards Bay, where I spend every Christmas. And I remember a few Christmases ago, we were all sitting around the table, and it was a day like today, you know, and it started to rain, and all the snow was gone. And my father said, isn't this wonderful? A nice green Christmas. And my grandmother said, yeah, green Christmas means a fat graveyard. You know, everybody's going to die. That was my grandmother, you know, or we would be sitting up in my she lived, my parents built a house right in the backyard, you know, up in the meadow, and my grandmother would call up at midnight and say, it's, you know, the lights are still on, turn off your Christmas tree lights, turn out the lights, go to bed, it's the Lord's birthday, go to bed. You know, so all of my best memories are of my grandmother, and this will be our Christmas, our Christmas without her, but our Christmas with her. And I'm sure all of the viewers have somebody that they feel that way about.
Well, it's true that we've been talking a lot about having relatives over and whatnot, but I can remember a lot of Christmases when you're not at home and you're spending them alone. I guess, Bill, there have to be some bare essentials to make Christmas for yourself. What are the bare essentials that you have to make it be Christmas?
Well, let's see. First of all, you get a tree. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the size. Okay, that's not important. Copious amounts of food. Because if you don't wake up, you know, like late Christmas Day going like, you know, there's something wrong. And it doesn't have to be good for you. I think that's essential. I think it's a cholesterol time of year when you just stuff the cholesterol and you like rub it right into the arteries of the heart and you know, and then cope with that later, which we do. And the other thing, and this is the most important thing, you know, kids, borrow them if you have to borrow them. Find some kids, because, and this is my Christmas sort of nice message here about Christmas, is that the one thing that I've noticed is this has been a hard Christmas for a lot of people, and it, you know, that we have a certain man with a large chin who's been telling us that it's the world economy's fault, and we're downsizing and bottom sizing and right sizing, and we're being lean and mean, and there's a lot of people hurting because of that, and that's why I like to look at the kids, because they're sitting around with a beautiful optimism and a hope that keeps going on for days, and they believe in themselves, and they believe in each other, and they believe that there can be peace and goodwill for all humankind. And then when you see that, then you go, yeah, maybe they're right, you know. Of course, they haven't lost their hair yet, and they're not overweight, but, you know, I think it's possible.
Well, okay, Bill, just a final quick word from The Rock.
I think I'll give Bill then my dad, because my dad wakes us all up still. I'm almost 40 years old. My father still wakes me up at 5 o'clock every Christmas morning. He says, come on, let's go down.
It's time.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
New Year.
Merry Christmas, for sure.
Merry Christmas to you both.
And Happy Hanukkah. and all of those other ones. There's a bunch of other ones. There's Christmas and Hanukkah and stuff. I'm being politically correct, Donna. Don't give me a break here.
Oh, no. Oh,
Yeah.
Bill, I hate politically
Watch it.
correct
Look.
people. It's so boring.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Yeah,
See you
wonderful
later.
Christmas coming up.
Theater producer Donna Butt joined us from St. John's, Newfoundland. Actor and humorist Bill Carr is in his rightful place in the Halifax studio.
We'll close out this hour with international news. The recent spate of IRA attacks in London have made the city a difficult, sometimes dangerous place to live. For many Londoners struggling through the recession and choking on record high pollution, this is becoming a very gloomy Christmas. Nancy Durham reports.
It's the peak of the Christmas rush. In London's busy Oxford Street, traders try to put on a happy face.
With the recession in this street, people just haven't got the money. So, they feel a bit sort of depressed, a bit down, and very negative. But I'm very positive, I don't care.
The Salvation Army band plays on, even with few shoppers around to appreciate them. The Irish Republican Army's Christmas firebomb campaign has scared off the customers. Explosions at a large London shopping centre forced stores to close, wiping out sales on what should have been one of the busiest days of the year. The IRA vowed to disrupt every day on the mainland, and it has. Blame the IRA for some of their troubles, but many of them also blame the government.
Basically, nothing in London works. I mean, the government over the past 12 years has starved all the public services, and it's appalling. I mean, I wish I could leave.
Houses, unable to make the payments. Yet, in the midst of all the gloom, some people do feel at least a glimmer of the Christmas spirit.
Yeah, we're in a Christmassy mood, yeah.
Hang it all.
Why not?
Nancy Durham, CBC News, London.
Long lineups are expected at soup kitchens and temporary shelters all across Britain this holiday season. We have this report now by John Curran of ITN.
It's late at night, below freezing, and on the first day of Christmas, volunteers from the Simon community distribute soup to the needy in a scene that's repeated throughout Britain. Amid the glitter of Glasgow's illuminations, Edwin Linton savours his soup. Home is a pile of damp blankets on a fire escape, but he wants to change that.
I've not long come back to Glasgow, but I'm going to reform my life, as you would say, and start a new life over again.
Edwin and others may fulfill the stereotype of homelessness, but the problem is wider and deeper. Government figures show nearly 60,000 British families will spend Christmas in temporary accommodation, almost 30% more than last year. But homelessness isn't confined to the cities. In rural Aberdeenshire, Yvonne Grant and her two teenage sons have been homeless since leaving her second husband in July. Her first husband gave the boys a room in his cottage, and until a suitable house is found, Yvonne sleeps in a caravan.
Normally Christmas morning, I'm up cooking the Christmas dinner. But I won't be this year. What we need is housing. We need public housing that is available for the people that need it. And that's the only long-term solution to homelessness.
Shelter says 150,000 young people may have experienced homelessness this year. That makes Frank McWhinney one of the lucky ones. After 3 years waiting, he's just been given the keys of a flat.
I've been through hell for 3 years. And now? Only I'm hoping that this is me sorted it. I'm back on my feet again.
But back on the fire escape, how will Edwin spend his Christmas?
I'm going to enjoy my Christmas. Even though I'm out the way I am, because I know it's the Lord's Day.
John Curran, ITN, Glasgow.
We were talking to our Lifestyles panel, and Bill Carr was saying this, times are tough here in Canada. They're tough worldwide, and this is an excellent time to be able to remember those people and to keep them in our thoughts.
That's right. Bill also said something else that was interesting about being fully alive this holiday season, regardless, I guess, of what you believe in or what you practice. It's just a wonderful time to enjoy life. The CBC Morning News is here tomorrow, by the way.
If you're going to be going home, be sure to drive carefully on the highways, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Have a happy holiday.